so quiet when you want it to be.
Yeah, when you want it to be.
I like a quiet car.
How good is that, Stu?
Rear mid-engined, normally aspirated, 560 horsepower, two-seater, two-door sports car, old school, analog dials,
Yes.
super responsive throttle, all-wheel drive, pokey little screen that's you're never going to use.
No, we don't need that shit.
That's what we've got today. As much as I like my EVs and I love that Ioniq 5N, I thought it was just hilarious.
Yeah.
It doesn't make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. This car does.
No, it really does, doesn't it? I just can't get over how throttle responsive the engine is at low revs. Just at low revs, you know. It's in fourth gear at 3,000 revs. There's not many engines do that, is there?
I can't draw this comparison. I almost feel like I'm being rude to do it.
But you can't compare it to an EV, Stu. Don't even try.
All right, I was going to go there with the Ioniq 5N.
Let's not even go there.
Yep.
It's just going to piss people off.
Yeah.
I just can't quite believe how good this car is. We get to drive a lot of amazing cars on our channel. This is right up at the very top end of the cars that we've driven. It does everything right. The V10 is one of the world's best engines. You're going to love it.
I've never been in an Audi R8 before.
I'm glad I've been able to arrange one for you, Stu.
Have you been in one before?
I've been in quite a few R8s before, not in the Gen 1 R8 for some time, but that's what we have here today, but a very special version with the LMX. So you're going to love it. They're a super impressive car.
I actually knew the answer to that. I know you've been in one before because you actually raced.
Done a little bit of racing in the, if you want to call it the Gen 2 version of the R8 at the Adelaide Street Circuit in a GT3 LMS R8 Audi, and subsequently a GT4 R8 in the Blancpain GT series at Suzuka in 2019, where we had a second and a third out of the two races, which was...
There's the video up there if you want to see a little bit of...
Yeah, go check out my qualifying lap. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Put us on P3.
But there's a big difference between the LMS and the LMX. Now, the LMX is a model most people never heard of. They only made, what, 99 of them or something?
99 of these, and this is number 11 of 99, and I believe only 15 right-hand drive cars in the world. So,
and how many in Australia?
I believe it's 3.
Wow.
So it's a super rare car, and
in the signature colour, which is Ara Blue.
Ara Blue.
Yeah. How nice. It's funny, whenever you see an R8 on the road, which is rare, because how often do you see one actually being driven?
Yeah.
Except unless it's going to Cars and Coffee. They're always silver, grey, black, or white. And in fact, of the 52 cars for sale in Australia, only 7 are some other colour apart from that. I've actually always liked them. From some angles, I thought the styling looked a little awkward, but in the flesh, it's a car that looks much better in real life than in photos.
They sort of do. Yeah, I think you're right. I sort of prefer the Gen 2 version, the slightly more angular look.
I don't.
To the later model car. You prefer this shape, the original shape?
Yeah. Because it's rounded, it sort of harks back to analog. People said, oh, it's really dated, the interior. I think the rounded look really suits the analog style. It's this century car, but only just, designed in 2003, released in 2007,
I think if you went for one of those earlier cars, you'd want to go for a manual.
Yeah.
Okay, they are a slow shift, they're a long shift, but it makes it so much more fun to drive.
But it still looks good to me.
It's great. I mean, the whole dash layout's very functional. I think this looks good.
It's old school.
This is a 10-year-old car, and it's based on a car that was,
2007. So we're 17, 18 years old now. Yeah.
So, look, of course, there are elements of the car that are going to be dated, but
Yeah.
I don't think the car's dated in terms of styling at all.
No.
You know, who cares about this crappy infotainment screen when you've got that V10 behind you? Like,
Yeah.
nothing else really matters, does it?
Although I gather this one's got the upgraded B&O stereo, which is much, much better than the standard one. Yeah, anyway, we don't care about the stereo, do we?
Yeah.
Nah.
That's all we care about there.
Yeah. It's responsive.
Yeah, super responsive.
Oh, jeez.
It's literally about 50% throttle, so that's the characteristic of that V10.
Oh, I love
Naturally aspirated engine, there's no turbos in the way. It's just that instant throttle response and power there. It revs, 8,500 revs.
Yep. Maximum power at 8, but
Yeah.
but the rev hard limit is at 8.5.
You know, as a GT car, it's just outstanding.
Now, the thing is, when we review cars, we often happen across very generous owners who've got the top of the line, top spec. Now, this car, when new, was $440,000 Australian, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
So how can we make this affordable for our viewers, those people out there? That person, look, hello, I'm talking to you. How can you afford one of these? If you're in the States, they're probably much, much cheaper. Even the UK, probably. And in Australia, these cars are, okay, they're dearer than you'll find them in the UK or the States. $120,000 is your entry-level price for an R8 with the V8.
Yeah.
So while we enjoy what I'm sure you'll agree is one of the best car ads ever for any car, let's look at the entry-level prices for these cars here and in other markets. So why are these damn things so much more expensive in Australia? Well, relatively small demand, lack of competition between dealers means high margins, and the dreaded 30% luxury car tax, introduced to protect the Australian car manufacturing industry that no longer exists at all, thanks to globalisation, incompetence, greed, misinformation. Anyway, suffice to say, these cars are expensive in Australia.
Bit of a bumpy road, fairly harsh suspension, so you can hear my voice up and down here a little bit.
Does sport mode adjust the suspension? Or if I turn it off, sport?
We need to find out.
My understanding is most of the R8s came with the MRC, the magnetic ride control, which was, to be honest, problematic because if it hasn't leaked yet, it's going to leak. Same as in the B7 variant of the RS4. You know, everyone I know who had an RS4 had a problem at one corner of the car, went rattly because the magnetic ride control was leaking, and it was sort of $5,000 a corner to fix up the suspension.
Yeah.
So a lot of them eventually said, no, I'm not going to spend 20 grand fixing that, I'll go to coilovers instead. But I might be wrong, and we'll check, but I thought this car does not have the MRC. It's such a limited release car, there's not a lot of information about it, but we'll find out.
Yeah. But as you know, the big difference, I guess, when you see an R8 on the racetrack is they're all a two-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
All the road cars, some aren't, but the vast majority of road cars, and this one is no exception, is an all-wheel drive vehicle. So it really gives you that sure-footedness on the road. Power out of the corners is outstanding.
It's a Torsen differential system, which is torque sensing. So you never get more than 30% of the power out of the front wheels. So if you want to fang it, it'll drive like a rear-wheel drive car, and you can hang the rear. But it doesn't understeer like a might do.
Evo or a Subaru WRX or something like that.
Yep.
But,
Yep.
Have you seen me cringe when trucks are coming towards us, Stu?
Yeah.
The reason is, as we know, this car has laser headlights. One of the first, if not the first in the world to have them. Maybe they were just beaten by BMW, so the urban myth goes. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
Yeah.
However, they are $50,000 each, so I've got $100,000 worth of headlights sitting in the front of this car.
Seriously? 50 grand?
So when you see a truck coming towards me and
you flinch.
I'm I'm being very, very mindful of that.
Now hold it right there, Mark. No matter how well off you are, that's an outrageous sum for a headlight. We simply can't let the review go on without some follow-up. So I rang Audi, and good news, laser headlights for a 10-year-old Audi R8 LMX, now heavily discounted to $28,000 Australian, including GST, each. No stock, of course, special order. Could be a long wait, price subject to change. So I thought, what are the options? Just hypothetically? Well, we could go for the standard Audi LED lights. Very tempting at just $10,000 each. But probably not a smart idea, as the value of this car is in its complete originality. And this LMX is completely original, except for the sexy gold wheels. But of course, Peter has the originals tucked away in plastic at home. No, if I want the original laser lights, maybe these guys in the UK. $10,000 Australian each, plus a couple of grand in customs charges. And there'll be freight. And they don't accept returns if they're wrong or they don't work. So, yeah, nah. What else? In the USA, there's nothing at all on AutoZone. But these guys can get a pair of standard LED lights for about 14 grand Australian. But they don't ship internationally. Be a nice holiday, and still cheaper than buying them here. What about a pair of Chinese-made LED copies on eBay for about 15 grand Australian, plus import duty? But free shipping and free returns, bargain. Look, no wonder you don't see cars like this on the road very often. If ever something was going to destroy your enthusiasm for driving this beautiful car, it's worrying about that pebble that's wedged in the chunky tyre of that four-wheel drive in front of you. All I can say is kudos to the owner Peter for lending it to us on these pothole roads and for getting out there and doing 9,000 k's himself in this car. Thanks, Pete, you are a legend. Now, back to the review.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very sobering. Okay.
Yeah, it is sobering. Generally not a fan of changing wheels from original wheels to non-original. However, I think on this car they look brilliant.
Yeah, a car like this, if it's only one of three in the country, you'd want to keep it standard to retain its value.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we know, the first gen R8s were built on the Gallardo's platform, and the later ones from 2015 onwards were built on the Huracan platform. But I think Lamborghini owners and Audi owners are completely different markets. Even though there's so much of the cars in common, a Gallardo buyer is not going to buy one of these, and the sort of person that buys this says, no, a Gallardo's way too shouty for me.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. There's a lot in common with the cars, and I've driven them all, and they drive quite similarly, but this is a special car. It will remain a special car.
They've only just stopped making them, haven't they? This year.
Yeah.
So it had quite a long run, like 17 or 18 years.
Yeah. One of the features I do like, the sort of actuation of the transmission here by hand is it's not very intuitive. It's a little clumsy in some ways, but I like the fact that when you go to paddle shift or you want to just flick straight to paddle shift, you don't have to move the gear lever. You just go straight to the paddles. It puts it automatically in manual mode, and you drive it on the paddle shift.
Yep.
There's no having to move a gear lever like it is in Porsches, for instance, with their PDKs. So that's a good feature.
It feels really stiff. Tell you a story. The first time I saw this car was at the Dubai 24 Hour. I was working with Melrose's supercar team, but next door was one of these, and I think it got a leaky fuel tank in first practice, and it was a brand new car, and the crew really didn't know it well. They virtually had to take the whole back of the car off, the engine and gearbox first, because it's kind of right, the fuel tank's just there.
Yeah.
And it was a nightmare. They made it to the race, but I got to look at the chassis of the car, and it was pure race car. And if you look at the construction of this car, and here's a picture, it's got castings for the significant bits, like the corners of the pillars, and then the box section aluminium, and then aluminium sheeting, and then for the doors and stuff, it's got high composite plastic carbon fibre as well. It's just a really expensively made chassis, and you can feel how stiff it is. It's a little too stiff for this road.
Little bit of traction control kicking in there, which it didn't really need to. So certainly with that switched off, which we'll try later, it will be better. Just that throttle response there.
Yeah.
We get so used to driving turbo cars, don't we, now, and it's just so good to get into something like this. Yeah, we've had some fast EVs like the Hyundai Ioniq 5N and so on, which are outstanding.
Yeah.
But there's no substitute for that, is there?
Yeah, it's a very emotional car, this one.
Yeah, it is. On a bit of smooth road that we have here now,
that's much better.
So much better, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit of a blast there, Stu, just got to do it.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like I said, I haven't driven the LMX and the earlier iterations of, if I call it the Gen 1 R8, I drove on the road. Not that great in some areas, but tell you what, this car is superb. The carbon ceramic rotors are brilliant.
Geez, you went deep in there. Wow.
Now, just to confuse everybody, Audi gave their R8 road car the same name as their Le Mans winning race car from back in 2005. And in 2014, clearly they wanted to jam it up everyone that they'd won 8 out of the last 9 races. So they launched at Le Mans the R8 LMX road car, Le Mans exclusive, just to rub it in. Now, if you're wondering why Audi makes such a big deal about their laser headlights, it's because headlights are really important at Le Mans, and they really wanted to associate this car with their race wins. But it was the end of a great decade for Audi. They haven't won at Le Mans since 2014, so I think that makes this car extra special. An exclamation mark at the end of an era.
There's the carbon ceramic brakes. They are really, really good. Peter, the owner of the cars, and a dear old friend of mine I've known for 30 years, as we know, and we've reviewed a lot of his cars already, and what he doesn't know about his cars isn't worth knowing. He's such a knowledgeable guy and such a genuine enthusiast, so it's always a pleasure to spend time with him, because he's one of those guys, you know, we know a fair bit about cars, but when you talk to someone like Peter, you learn something new every time, don't you? It's a wide car, isn't it? You know, it's a reasonably narrow road. I feel like I'm taking up a fair bit of this lane.
You are, 1.95 metres.
Yeah.
There's something about a V10, isn't there?
It's just almost a perfect configuration of cylinders, isn't it, V10? Just from noise and performance.
Geez, the grip is great. Michelin Pilot Super Sports. 305s at the back. So they're big wide tyres and sticky.
What do you reckon, Stu? I mean, how good is that?
It's
the handling is just superb, isn't it? Like,
I expected a lot, but it's way better than I thought.
It's way better than I thought it was going to be. So memories of a good friend of mine, Jeffrey Lee from Taiwan, racing driver, and Alex Jung and myself took Jeffrey's collection of cars around some mountainous roads in Taiwan a few years back now, and I had one of these, and it sort of paled a little bit into insignificance compared to some of the other cars that we had on that day, but my memories are not that great of it. But here today, I'm really enjoying this car. It's just doing everything so well.
You were fanging it that day,
yeah,
weren't you?
we were a bit out of control.
With Alex Jung, the F1 driver.
Anyway,
Has Alex Jung driven F1? Or?
Yeah, he did F1,
Yeah.
He's a very good driver. Great guy. Just sitting there in 4th gear, right?
Yeah.
3,500 revs, not working the car at all.
No. That's just beautiful.
Sits so flat, the body roll is almost not there. The pitch control, the dive under brakes, pitch under throttle.
In terms of emotion, it's up there with the 458. You know, I'm a Porsche guy, but the 458 is still the peak of excitement from the car reviews we've done, I think, just in terms of involvement. But this I love it for the guttural. Audi's 5-cylinder and 10-cylinder motors have got a particular kind of gruffness to them, don't they? That it just sounds so good.
Yeah. Just the weight of the steering is brilliant. I mean, it's an all-wheel drive car. I generally don't like them as a rule, but this is just superb. The balance of the car is brilliant.
The Yaris GR was good, wasn't it? As an all-wheel drive car, that was quite good. The little Yaris.
Yeah.
But this, it doesn't feel like an all-wheel drive car.
It actually doesn't.
It just feels like a rear-wheel drive car with way too much grip, you know.
You know, the tuning of the dampers, the springs, just brilliant. You know, Audi put a lot into building this car, didn't they? They put a lot of engineering into it. And they've created something that's really special. It's unique, and now there's no more of them.
If this is a supercar, the V8 is just a very good sports car. Can we say that?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Because the V8's 0 to 100 is only about 4.5. Whereas this is 3.2 or something like that.
The earlier versions of these cars, the transmissions, paddle shift, DSG were pretty ordinary.
Oh yeah.
Like they're actually crap. This is really good. The later model DSG transmission, dual clutch, really, really good. That surprises me because I do have memories of the earlier versions of this car, driving it and thinking that they really weren't much good at all.
Yeah.
They were very slow. I didn't like the way they performed at all. A very dear friend of mine who had one of these R8s, Gen 1, V10 manual, very rare car.
Wow, V10 manual.
Not many of those around, certainly in Australia. And
I didn't think they made them.
we did a lot of driving on the racetrack in that car. So the V10 with a gate shift, 6-speed manual, was a very nice car to drive as well. Way better than that iteration of the paddle shift.
Okay. And off we go again. Really, really like this car.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I've come away with a new appreciation of these cars. We know the LMX is the top of the range, but I pull that down to second there, and it's just superb, isn't it? Those the carbon brakes, it actually takes a little while to tune in to getting the pressure right.
Yeah.
You can really overdo it. I mean, in terms of brake pressure, you're not having to apply a lot. They really stop very, very well. Certainly better than the Ferraris at the time. I know, you're in a 458 Ferrari with carbon ceramic rotors and doing 50 k's an hour out of your driveway and up to a stop sign, and they really don't want to stop that well. This car stops really well at those slow speeds.
It'd be a real shame to bump into the back of a Honda Civic in your Ferrari because the brakes aren't working well enough.
It has happened, believe it or not. I know people have had that happen. All of a sudden you're sitting in the middle of an intersection and all you were doing was 50 kilometres an hour. But this gives me a lot of confidence on the brakes.
Yeah.
Car gives me a lot of confidence all around. It's so sure-footed, isn't it? It's not as darty, it's not as nimble in the front end as a 458, but you wouldn't expect it to be.
No. And if you've ever driven a 458, they are really pointy. They dart straight into the apex, don't they? Just enjoy the sound. That's really good.
Where this car is just superb is that low down throttle response. We know it needs to rev, but like just there,
it just pulls straight away. Even that's less than 4,000 revs.
That's less than 3,500 revs in third gear.
Yep.
Like and that I'm only using 25% throttle there.
Yeah. And it's only halfway to maximum torque.
So it's that initial throttle response with this V10 engine. And we know it likes to rev, and we know it produces a lot of power higher up in the revs, but there's a...
Do that from 5.5. Waiting. Okay, go. Yeah. That works.
It really works. I was at 5,500.
Yeah, you don't get a turbo car doing that.
You really don't. I know turbos are brilliant these days. They really are, the way the turbos are set up. There's no lag.
No, but it's still, it takes a while and gives you the shove.
Yeah.
This thing just goes smack.
Just so sure-footed.
Are we drinking a lot of petrol, do you reckon? We probably are.
If you're worried about that with, why do you own one of these cars?
It's not the right car, yeah. Oh, gee. And the sun's come out again.
Beautiful.
Beautiful bit of Australian road. Coming out of our winter. The days are starting to warm up. I'm out of the puffer jacket. The beanie's gone. Keep watching the electric 928 project car, where heathen that I am, I'm taking a 928 and turning it into an electric car. You can watch that on the channel. There's the latest episode up there. But I'm sure when it's done, it's not going to make the hair stand up on the back of your neck like this car does. Okay, well, what can I say? Thanks for watching inCARnation today from Mark and me. It's been emotional.
Thank you.
Oh hey, you made it right through to the end of the video. Congratulations. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please share it with your motoring friends. And above all, click the little subscribe thing down here so you can see the latest videos when we bring them out, hopefully each week. I look forward to seeing you soon.